Mr. X with the Extreme channel here, and I am ecstatically excited. I'm excited because I have a brand new XM Studios piece for the Extreme collection. Mr. X has an XM piece for the Extreme collection. That's XXX. You should be excited too. And I don't think anyone has this in hand yet. If so, they're probably getting it today, but no one's seen it in hand. It's highly anticipated. If you have half an IQ, you know what it is because you saw the title. Second reason, we are doing our first ever Xtrumble. What's an Xtrumble? Stay tuned to find out. Mr. X with the Extreme channel, and before we get to the Xtrumble and what is an Xtrumble, we're going to unbox and assemble and review, while we do the Xtrumble, which we'll talk about that, XM Studios Mystique. So let's dive right in. Right here you see the classic standard XM boxing. This was the first XM box that wasn't a pain in the ass to get off. And I'm only showing stills here, so you're not actually seeing me unbox the pieces, but it has the classic XM Studios foam and strap. I like that they've stayed with the strap and not gone to tape. And then here it is only one layer, and as you saw, it's a really skinny, long box. But here are all the different pieces we're going to assemble, and as a reminder, you're not going to see me take them actually out of the box, and it's sad because it was an amazing experience that you missed. And right here, laid out on the table, are all the different pieces. So let's get rocking. All right, we have all the pieces. Now let's put this bitch together. She probably is a bitch. She kind of looks like one. As always, XM Studios has an awesome handbook, and I'm not going to look at it because you know what they say about assembly instructions. And you know, as I assemble this, it might be a good idea to tell you guys exactly what is an Xtrumble. Some collectors like myself will collect multiple pieces of the same character. And sometimes it's cool to have multiple pieces of the same character. It's cool to have 10 Wolverines or 20 Venoms or 2 Mystiques. But sometimes you just need to keep one. You can't control your impulse buying, and in the end you realize due to space and money, it's probably better just to keep one of those. So what we are going to do is we are going to pit those pieces against each other. And those are called rumbles. So we have Extreme, Rumble, or Xtrumble. And that is going to be a new thing on the channel moving forward. When I have multiple pieces of the same character, for example Mystique, I also have Sideshows, we are going to do an Xtrumble or a comparison between the two pieces. Now, I need to put her arm in first because her hair covers up the Typically moving forward when I do my Xtrumbles, it will not be on a review like we are doing now. We are doing both a review and an Xtrumble. So we're going to kind of jump back and forth as we go through reviewing XM Studios Mystique, as well as doing the comparisons between XM Studios Mystique and Sideshow Mystique premium format. Yeah, as I put this together, a lot of it seems very similar to the Sideshow premium format. So interesting. I think you have to put this in last. Or maybe you put Mystique in last. This is why they have assembly instructions. So you can fast forward through this part while I try and figure this out. That is incredibly close on the back, and I think there's no way to get out of having them right next to each other, so that might be a design issue that we're going to discuss. Right now, push on her area. And that's what we got. Then we have two other switch outs, which we're going to talk about. So assembly is quite easy. It is the base, the back of the base, her front and back skirt, which actually don't cover everything up, her two arms, which she has switch outs for each one, and her portrait for each one. I purchased her to add to my ever-growing X-Men line. I have a large X-Men wall you guys haven't seen, but if you've seen some of my videos, you know what I have and what I have coming in. I purchased Sideshow's Mystique, which we're going to talk about some of the reasons I purchased that one, and I decided I'm only going to keep one and we're going to figure out each one. And as you saw in the little flash up, this is typically the part of the video where we go through background info, but a lot of the background info will actually be in the Xtrumble because I want to compare the two together. The only thing I can really tell you about this guy that is going to be significantly different is I purchased this from Spec Fiction. I buy about half of my XM Studio stuff from Spec Fiction. Todd Johnson, highly recommend him. I don't get anything for saying that. I think he might have bought me a drink in New York, or somebody paid for him. I don't remember. Oh, I paid. No, I don't know if I paid for him. I was so drunk, I just remember throwing money around. Kind of how I buy some statues. But let's jump into some of the background info and differences between the both. So some of the background stuff. First of all, it's important to know that this one is made and distributed by Sideshow Collectibles, and it's their premium format, quarter scale, and this is XM Studios' quarter scale comic piece. So first of all, Sideshow Studios has the license for Marvel in the United States of America. XM Studios does not. What does that mean? It essentially means that Sideshow can sell this one in America, and XM Studios, you have to go through third parties to get it to America. So because of that, there is a difference in price. She right here retails for $560 or $570 US dollars. XM Studios retails for approximately $850 to $900 depending on the exchange rate. Also with that, you pay quite a bit more shipping. You're going to pay $200 shipping on this as opposed to $50 to $150 shipping on this depending where you get it from in the country. So price is a big difference. However, there's a lot of features in the statue that are different and a lot of reasons that price is different. So first of all, they made 1,800 of Sideshow. They made 550 of the XM Studios, so it is much more rare. They only made a third of them, much more valuable typically. And there's not a lot of Mystique pieces out there. Another big difference is the different ways you can display each piece. Sideshow Studios only comes with one switch out, and that's only if you get the exclusive version. So they made 600 of these that you're allowed to switch out the X23 blade hand. And then here is the regular switch out that comes with all 1,800 statues. XM Studios, first of all, comes with two portraits. First is this long hair portrait, which we're going to review this in detail. The other is a short-haired portrait. You can have a left arm where she's holding a gun up to her lips, kind of blowing the smoke. Or in her left arm, she has this cool-looking dagger down to her side. Her right arm can be displayed draped down to her side. Or it can be holding a gun up behind her hair. Another big thing with XM Studios is they always do an art print. And this is my first time looking at it. I don't collect art prints, but it's typically the same pose as the statue. Something neat, something different. So you're definitely getting something different for your money. And size-wise, as you can plainly see, the XM Studios is slightly taller. Sideshow is a little bit about 19.5, where this at the top of the gun, 22, 21.5. A few inches taller, base is a little bit bigger. As you can imagine, they're both supposedly quarter scale, so the size is very similar, even though Mystique is polymorphic, meaning she can change sizes. That's her special power, being a shapeshifter. So let's dive into the concept and design of both. And what I'm going to do when we talk about concept and design and paint and sculpt, I'm going to do a traditional review on XM Studios, and then I'm going to compare it to Sideshow, and that's when the Xtrumble is going to be happening. So first, diving into XM Studios here. It's a very similar concept to Sideshows, and who knows who came out with what first, but she is standing on a rock base, and there is evidence that she is at the X-Men mansion, or a destroyed X-Men mansion, just like the Sideshow one. It says Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, and a battle went on. There's a bullet or two, a bullet casing or two on the bottom, and she's leaning against it, very cocky, very proud. She's in what we call a museum pose, and with this, she's posing for a picture. It looks like she's victorious. She just killed some X-Men. You know, realistically, with Mystique, there's not really a lot of way to portray her power, which we're going to talk about in a second. And depending on which switch out you display, it doesn't really change the concept too much. And Sideshow is just like that. She's sitting on a base that has essentially destroyed the School of Youngsters. She's in a museum pose, a little bit of her power displayed, and that is one big difference. So Mystique's power is to shapeshift. That's one of her main powers. And they are displaying it in Sideshow's version, not in XM Studios' version. And for a lot of collectors, such as myself, that's what tips this over the edge. However, if you think about it, there's a lot of things that tip this over the edge with all the different switch outs and things like that. Now, in a typical Xtrumble, just so you guys know, this is the first one we're doing, we're actually going to have a winner in each category. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to kind of focus on the pieces, what's different, so you can make your own decision if you're in the market for one of these. I kind of want to do a... You know what? We're going to do it at the end. See, I don't really plan these as I go. So realistically, there's a lot of similarities as well. Same outfit, skin tone's a little different. We're going to talk about that in paint. Both of them, she's in a museum pose. She's wielding her guns. She's big into weapons. She's destroyed the mansion. She's kind of cocky, kind of smirky in both of them. So very, very similar concepts. Very, very similar designs too. A lot of the pieces that you switched out on XM Studios, you switch out on Sideshow. For example, the front of her dress here comes off on both her arms, her portrait. The base is a separate piece. The only exception is this back base part right here. And also, talking about size, we talked about similar in size. The base is very similar in size too. I would say the XM Studios is about 2 inches deeper, but otherwise width is about the same. Now let's dive into paint and sculpt regarding the XM Studios piece. And starting at the base as we usually do, there's a lot going on this simplistic base, and I really like that when they take a statue and they're able to make a simple concept just look really good. So down here, checking this out, on the sides of it, reminds me of pebbles and sand, this mortar wall they kind of put together. Whether this is part of a wall that was at the mansion or it's just part of the rock base underneath the earth, who's to say? But they have great texture. I like the different colors. It kind of makes the statue pop, just like her red hair and blue skin really make it pop. And on top of it, there's all these gravel and other boulders and some X-Men signs in red we're going to talk about later. And you see a few of the bullet casings I was talking about. The concrete and cement looks good. I'll grade it later against Sideshow Studios, but unofficially I think it's done completely different, but they both have about the same grade. The X symbol she's leaning against in the back, I really like this. I like how aged it is, so this could be in the future. I like the granite texture in the paint they used to really give it that age effect, kind of like the end days, maybe Sentinels around, who knows. And they have the post-tension cables coming out where it was once connected. Maybe Juggernaut destroyed it, who knows what, but great paint, great detail on that. It really sells the piece. It's a little, gives a little bit more than Sideshow did. And then starting at her boots, so same exact costume. The heels of her boots are a little different color, which is no big deal. But she has a lot of folds, and her boots are not as shiny as they are on Sideshow. And they have this seam running up the side that Sideshow does not, but a lot more folds, not as glossy. You see the zipper on the side up top, and it looks really good, sculpted in, and the paint is nice on this. Like I said, it's not too shiny, and they have hints of gray and black in there. And very muscular, very athletic legs, which is, you know, agility is one of her, so to say, superpowers. And her dress, flowing in the wind, very similar to Sideshow. Again, just like the boots, it's not glossy, but darker. It kind of shows there's a breeze, which follows her hairline as well. Then she has her skull belt, a little bit different belt, where Sideshow's is a black. This is silver with a really cool gold chain around it with 5 skulls instead of 3. And I think that gold chain, it's actually a real chain. I think that really makes it pop and adds to it. Makes the Sideshow one look a little more boring. And I want to focus on her skin color here. So first, let me back up. Let's talk about her anatomy around her thighs and her midsection. She's very trim, very thick, or very fit, but she's also muscular. Very wide thighs from a muscular standpoint, and definitely can tell she can kick some ass. She's not some frail little person. She looks a lot more built than Sideshow's as well. And now let's look at the skin color. First, there's no deviations in the skin, so it's all this throughout her whole body. Anywhere that it's showing, it's this darker blue color, where there's different shades on Sideshow's, and I don't know if there's different shades because it was a QC issue or it's supposed to be that way, where traditionally in the comics she's one color. And it's much darker than Sideshow's as far as the how light it is. And then one thing I like is her chest area up here. Again, more folds, more darker parts, but there's kind of this texturized training bra. I wouldn't say training bra, but sports bra she's wearing underneath it. And I like the texture on it. She's got a huge rack, much bigger than on Sideshow's. Really, really cool. Of course, a big rack is cool. I guess I didn't mean to say that, but Freudian slip. And then checking out her gloves. Again, great folds, where there's not as many in Sideshow's. And the gloves don't go through her fingers like Sideshow's actually do. And there's zippers on here, just like her boots, where Sideshow there's no zippers. So a little bit different and interesting take. And then I want to look at her pistols here. So very cool looking pistols, a lot of detail to them. Look really good. And then here's the larger one. Very Mystique-like. And then here's a close look at the dagger. I love the dagger. It has skulls on the bottom of the head, very Mystique-like. This is probably what I'm going to display. And then let's look at her portrait. So first, it's nice she has a long-haired portrait option because the Sideshow does not. And the hair is a much darker red, where there's shades of black and, or not darker, I guess, kind of more of a maroon, brighter color red. It's just deeper. Deeper is probably the right word. But it's flowing in the wind, same direction as her skirt. Very cool. Lots of different strands and layers. And it's this one solid color, which I like because Sideshows kind of indicate she dyes her hair, which doesn't make sense because she can change the colors. And then her face here, I don't like the fact she's kind of blowing a kiss to the gun. I know that's kind of smart-ass. I'm not a fan of the concept, but the head sculpt is good. It has her classic gold skull on her head. Not a lot of lines to show emotion in her face. Eyebrows are slightly sculpted on. Classic Mystique yellow eyes. What's interesting is there's very little eyebrows or eyelashes in here. There's a lot more in Sideshow's. And then really deep lipstick. Very comic-like, which this is the comic version. And you know, looking at her short-haired portrait, again, the hair looks great. It's not flowing, but there's different strands running all over everywhere, and a few different shades in this one that I look at it close, so they probably are in the other one too. Total different smirk. This is kind of the smart-ass smirk. It's different looking than Sideshow's, but it's same concept. And again, you don't really have a lot of detail or definition in her face, but I think that's intentional because it's the comic version. So let's talk about which one is going to win which category. And I don't know what kind of graphics or sounds I'm going to throw in here, but we're going to give it a shot. So first of all, let's talk about value. Now with value, I think there's a few things to consider, not just price. Considering you're about $1,000 to $1,100 all in with this, and you're $600 all in with this, obviously Sideshow would be a clear winner. However, XM Studios is 60% more rare. I think the math is right on that. They only made a third of them. You have a lot more display options. Instead of just this, you can switch out both arms and you have two different portraits and you get an art print. However, with that being said, when we get to the paint and sculpt, I think there's a clear winner, but I don't think it's twice the price clear. So with that, I'm going to give value to Sideshow. Concept and design. This is kind of a tough one. With concept, I think they're both extremely similar concepts. The fact that they've destroyed Xavier's school, the fact that they're kind of sitting there in a museum pose and they're smug. I would say it's almost a dead even tie. However, Sideshow once again has the slight edge, has the fact she's showcasing her powers with the X23 arm. So for that reason, I also give the concept to Sideshow. Let's talk about design. I think there's a few things going on with design. There was no issues as far as anything fitting. I think a negative ding on XM Studios is the fact that this is slightly rubbing against that, and it may just be my piece, but I don't think it is, to be honest with you. I like the fact that XM Studios actually displays the fact that it's the X-Men mansion behind her, where this one's on the bottom, so if you had it up high, you couldn't really see that, so it kind of takes away from it. I also like the fact that you have so many different switch outs. I think that's an important part of the design. So with that being said, I think the design goes to XM Studios. Paint on both of them, I think it's almost the exact same statue with the same clothes, same body parts. I think because of the inconsistencies in the paint, and I don't know if that's a design issue or a QC issue, the fact that she has different colors in her hair on Sideshow, different colors in her skin, I think for that reason alone, the paint goes to XM Studios. The base is pretty close, to be honest with you. Both did a fantastic job on the base, the paint on that, and I think the same can be said about the sculpt on the base. I think they're both equally good. It's a very, very hard thing to differentiate. Let's talk about the sculpt. I think the sculpt on XM Studios offers a lot more. I think the fact that we have a chain on top of the belt. I think the fact that it's not this glossy color and they added details like this zipper or this undershirt with texture, or the fact that there's a lot more going on in the guns. I think that reason alone, a lot more folds in the costume. I think that the sculpt goes to XM Studios. With one exception, I think I like the expression on the portrait of Sideshow better. I don't think she would fit. I don't even want to try it. I kind of wish I had this expression with long hair. To me, Mystique has long hair. As you have undoubtedly noticed during the review, this is kind of a voiceover after the fact. The XM Studios is a decent percent larger. I would say 10 to 15% larger. Placing next to a few other quarter scale pieces, you don't notice a sizable difference. However, her being a female, you typically think she is a little bit smaller. Another reason that I think gives Sideshow the slight edge. However, it is definitely not an elimination factor in my personal opinion. So paint and sculpt goes to XM Studios. Design goes to XM Studios. Or was it Concept? Concept goes to Sideshow. Value goes to Sideshow. It's a pretty damn close race, guys. Moving forward, I feel like there will be clear winners in the Xtrumbles. But this one, I don't think there's a clear winner. I think both are fantastic displays of Mystique. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I'm going to have to decide which one to sell. And being very honest with you guys, right now I'm leaning towards XM Studios, selling XM Studios. But I won't do it for a while. I want to enjoy the piece. And I could change my mind to the Sideshow one. So most importantly, let me know who wins the Xtrumble in your mind and why they win it. I think that's a key piece. Don't just pick one. But both very cool pieces. And in my opinion, it's not very often that Sideshow holds their own to XM Studios. When I think of a lot of pieces out there, there's very few that come to mind. I think this is one. And I do know for a fact that the Sideshow had a lot of QC issues. I was lucky enough where I had some very minor ones. Go check out my review if you want more details of her. I did review her in the past. But those are my thoughts, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Thursday, October 10th. Tomorrow night, check out, or if you're watching this, October 11th, Darth Castle open mics on. Mr. X was invited, and I'm very excited. And then the next day, we have a live chat going on with me and Gem Mint. Going to be super excited for that because we got some fun interactive games for you guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Take care.